For Transit TV News, I'm Tom Davis. From primetime news conferences to poetry slams, the East Room is President Barack Obama's all-purpose room at the White House. The AP's Ben Feller looks at the long and often overlooked history of the East Room.
When people think of the White House, of course they think of the Oval Office, the President's office, probably one of the most famous rooms in America, if not the world. And then there's the briefing room where the press secretary has his daily session with reporters. People don't really think about the East Room that way. It's used so often for so many purposes that it can kind of be taken for granted and overlooked. We're talking about 60 times so far already in at least the first 6 months of Barack Obama's presidency, so that breaks down to roughly at least a couple times a week that the press corps is ushered in and out of there for any number of events. There are all kinds of events that stand out. Probably the one that comes to mind first is the last primetime press conference. That event has a certain distinct White House feel. It's more dramatic, it's more intimate, and so many people across the nation are watching. There's also the introduction of the president's first Supreme Court nominee, Sonia Sotomayor. She came out with the president and vice president. She had her family there. And the Obamas have used this for poetry slams, for children's concerts, for professional concerts. Stevie Wonder was honored here. Just as the Obamas rely on this as their all-purpose room, basically every other president has since the White House was created over 2 centuries ago. From the time of Abraham Lincoln's, some of his famous events was held here, and when he was assassinated, his body was in state here. When Gerald Ford took over for Richard Nixon, when he resigned, Ford took the oath of office here and gave his famous speech about the nation's long nightmare being over. But then you have all of these fun moments that kind of get forgotten. Jimmy Carter's daughter was a roller skater, and she liked to use this as a rec room. Presidents themselves have thrown birthday parties themselves here. One time, there's a famous picture of Frank Sinatra dancing with Nancy Reagan and the president cutting in. So it doesn't have the same cachet as other rooms, but it's still a fun place to be depending upon the day. And when you look at all the events together, it probably deserves more attention than it gets.
An Italian court rejected defense lawyers' requests to throw out the murder indictments of an American student and her former boyfriend on trial for the slaying of her British roommate.
After a nearly 2-month summer break, the trial of an American student accused of killing her roommate in Italy has resumed. Amanda Knox, seen here, smiled to lawyers and family members as she walked into court Monday. Her co-defendant, Rafael Solicito, was also there. Earlier Monday, a judge rejected defense lawyers' request to throw out Knox and Solicito's murder indictments. The defense says the DNA evidence at the center of the trial is unreliable. Knox and her former boyfriend are charged in the 2007 slaying of Meredith Kercher. Kercher was stabbed in the throat in her bedroom in the house she shared with Knox in central Italy. Prosecutors said Knox's DNA was found on the knife's handle, while the victim's DNA was found on the blade. The knife was found in Solicito's apartment. Prosecutors allege that Kercher was killed during what began as a sex game. Both defendants deny wrongdoing. Diane Kepley, The Associated Press.
A man in Wisconsin gets pulled over while driving a motorized scooter drunk along a freeway in the middle of the night.
Rolling along this Milwaukee freeway ramp at 2:30 in the morning. The guy on a motorized scooter.
He's hugging the right wall. I don't want to stop here.
It was 35-year-old Daniel Semplasky. Court records show he has 4 prior drunk driving convictions, but not one like this.
And now he's rolling again.
The scooter eventually rolled to a stop.
Man, this is real dangerous, man. Can you imagine what would happen if a car would hit you? I don't even want to think about that.
Semplasky told sheriff's deputies he downed a 12-pack of beer before rolling off on the scooter, borrowed from a neighbor after fracturing his foot. He says he did not mean to hop on the freeway, but once he was on, it was tough to get off until the next exit.